Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nessie's Dead. We are your hosts, Spencer and Helen.
Hello.
Hello. Now, I know what you are going to cover tonight. I don't know the
Yes.
details, but I know what it is.
Yes. So this case here has made quite a comeback recently. So tonight we, of course, are going to be talking about Casey Anthony. So lately she has made quite the stir on TikTok. With that being said, a lot of people, she's getting a lot of followers. And I think the reason being is there's a whole age gap of generation that doesn't really know who Casey Anthony is, like what she actually did. And like you kind of are like, I know who she is. I don't really know the full details of it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted to bring some awareness with this case. Like, it is a very famous case. A lot of people know this case. So with this, I'm kind of not going to be diving into a lot of details about what happened in court, things like that. We will cover a quick timeline with that, but I really want to focus more on the personality of, like, what kind of person is Casey Anthony? Who are you following? Who are you letting get paid for your views and watches? Because she is getting paid. She is getting subs and things like this. So I thought,
She's literally a content creator because of her crime.
yeah, it's because she killed her daughter. And I'm not going to say allegedly. I think the evidence itself shows.
I was wondering where you were, like, what your approach with that is, because are there people kind of like with us on Darlie? Are there people who are like, no, she's innocent?
I would be shocked. And I think you would be too after we cover the details when it comes to the things she did. And a lot of it is based off of her being a pathological liar. So, and we're going to cover all that.
I'm excited to learn about this.
I think this is going to anger you, but
I'm sure.
Are you ready to take the plunge?
I'm ready.
All right. So we go back to 2008. And at this time, the world was pretty much captivated by this bizarre behavior that I've kind of described by Casey Anthony.
I did not know it was from then.
Yeah.
I thought it was way more recent.
Oh, no. 2008.
Wow. This happened when Gaga came out.
Yeah. So I think that's why we have a generation of people that are using that platform that don't quite understand who this person is.
Yeah, because I wasn't following this on the news because
you were a child.
13, 12, 13.
Yeah. And so there's that kind of gap there for sure. So especially with the way she's getting on her TikToks, claiming that she's an advocate for her daughter's disappearance and things like that and her murder. Yeah, well, it makes me sick to my stomach. So I will probably be very blunt about how I feel about her throughout this. So we're going to go back to when Casey Anthony, she's a 22-year-old single mom from Orlando, Florida, and was revealed to have spun a web of lies to cover up for the disappearance of her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. That summer, the MySpace photos of her partying around town and the complete array of emotions and interviews fueling the charges of first-degree murder before Kaylee's body was discovered later that year all took place. However, there would be no closure for those that were outraged by this mother's neglect of her child, as Casey did escape conviction in 2011. While the questions of who killed her young daughter were never resolved, her story is very controversial and is full of lies and contradictions. Publicly, she is displayed as a party girl, reckless mother. The defense puts her as a victim of lifelong sexual assault. And just so you guys do know, if that's something you don't like to hear, this is not going to be the episode for you, because there will be some sexual assault that she claims happened to her as a child, and that happened to her daughter and caused the accidental death of her daughter. And she used this and tried to cover it up, saying it was her father. So as we get into this, make your own conclusion, but I don't believe that any of that took place. So that's why I'm a little bit more comfortable with talking about it, because that didn't happen. So if you're not familiar with Casey Anthony, it is very easy to be swayed. And she's definitely rebranding herself on TikTok. So it does make it very easy for you to hit that like and follow button. But tonight we're gonna cover
But don't
this.
don't hit like and follow on her.
Yeah, please do not.
Like and follow us.
Yes, Nessie's dead. Tonight, I'm hoping to educate you guys. From start to finish, here we go. Casey Anthony, she was born on March 19th, 1986, in Warren, Ohio. She was the daughter of George and Cindy Anthony, and she had an older brother, Lee. He was about 4 years older than her. Now, George, her father, was a former police officer who then became a security guard, and Cindy worked as a nurse. Casey grew up in a middle-class family. She was described her entire life as an energetic child. However, it was known from a very, very young age that Casey was a pathological liar. She would lie about literally every little detail. Like things that normal kids don't even lie about. Not even lying to get out of trouble, just
lying. And not just creating stories, just like lying for literally nothing.
Yeah, literally for no reason.
That's scary.
It is scary.
As we see, she goes on to murder.
Yeah. And as she became a teenager, she was very good at lying. At one point, she even lied about her high school graduation. So in 2004, her parents planned this elaborate party. Friends, family, they were super excited. She's graduating high school. You know how that is. It can be a pretty big deal. But Casey wasn't giving them any details of like when the graduation starts, where's it at, what time should we be there. So her parents, they became very frustrated with this. And of course, they called the school to get this information. And the school's like, Casey's not graduating. She knows this. She knows she doesn't have enough credits to graduate. So this entire time she had known this party was coming up. She just continued to lie for months until it got to the point where she could no longer lie about it. So
she was going to get the party.
She got that party. After this happens, Casey decides to drop out of high school. And during the time from 2004 to 2006, she had a job at Universal Studios. And at the age of 19, she does become pregnant. And on August 9th, 2005, Kaylee Marie Anthony is born. Kaylee arrives after Casey repeatedly denies that she's pregnant. She kept this lie up until it was impossible to continue this charade. She's a petite woman, so she wore baggy clothing. She did as much as she could till she was about 7 months pregnant. And it got to that point where she couldn't.
Yeah, there's no hiding it.
Yeah, she couldn't.
Because it's not like, oh, you just gained weight. It's like you gained weight in one specific place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, it is unknown who the father could be. There's a couple suggestions of possible partners, including the then fiance, Jesse Grund, but it would later say that that's not. And she claimed another man who supposedly died in a car accident could be the father, but again, we're unsure if that information is even true. The identity of Kaylee's father has never been publicly revealed. Now, during this pregnancy, Casey did want to give Kaylee up for adoption, and she spoke about this a lot when she was pregnant. Casey had said multiple times that she didn't want to keep the baby, and the family, which was weird, also decided to keep Casey's pregnant a secret as well, going far enough not even to tell her older brother until it was time to deliver the baby, which he was very angry about, that the family left him out of this.
That's odd of them.
Yeah, because he's like an adult at this point. She's 19, so he's 4 years older than her.
23.
Yeah. And also, you know, Cindy didn't want her to put the baby up for adoption. Cindy was against this.
That's the mom.
Yeah, she wanted them to keep the baby. And I say, unfortunately, of course,
yeah.
Kaylee ended up not being put for adoption, and Cindy would become pretty much the primary caregiver to Kaylee, which we'll see throughout this. Now, during the time, her fiance, he wanted this to be a family. He wanted this relationship, and he was there for it. But kind of seemed like Casey was pulling away from this a bit. And my thoughts are, is it because she knew he wasn't the father? Could she have felt some guilt? I don't know if she has it in her heart for that, but there was something definitely going on with that. Around this time is when Casey starts bringing up a new nanny that she had gotten for Kaylee. She claims the nanny was named Zanny, which was short for Zanea Hernandez Gonzalez. But
Zanny the nanny.
Zanny the nanny. But Casey calls her Zanny, claiming A IT tech from her work told her that Danny, who was his ex-girlfriend, would watch his son, and told Casey that she could have her keep Kaylee too and he would pay for it, which makes absolutely no sense. And like I said, it's now at this time a DNA test was taken and did determine that Jesse was not the father. And in May of 2006, he did break off the engagement. Now, he had wanted to work this out with Casey. It's not because of, I think the whole child thing did kind of lie in the back of his head, but he did claim that her personality started to shift. She wasn't acting the same. Like something was going on with her, and he wasn't having it anymore. Now, between 2005 and 2007, she allegedly said she had a miscarriage, and then she was in a lot of relationships. In 2007, Casey, at this point, she is leading a double life. She's telling her parents that she is working for Universal Studios, but actually, she had been unemployed for years. And would just leave the house. Instead of go to work, she'd go out partying, go hang out at her boyfriend's house, do whatever she wanted.
All day long.
All day long. And her parents were financially struggling at this moment. They're taking care of her. They're taking care of Kaylee. And all the daily responsibilities were kind of relying on them while she, went to work each day.
That's odd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, considering the little things I know about her, it's like, well, I guess that adds up.
Yeah, it's going to add up here. You just wait. Now, with this going out nonstop and partying, she met a guy named Tony. Tony was a DJ, so basically she's following him around. So complete party life. Casey would also bring Kaylee to his apartment where he lived with his roommates, and they did spend a majority of time there too. So if she did have Kaylee, she was going to take her like in that kind of party atmosphere. In April of 2008, Cindy, she had considered kicking Casey out of the house. She discussed Casey's behavior with her counselor. And like I said, at this time, they were doing everything. She'd given her a free room, feeding her, whole 9 yards. So including Kaylee. This is now going to bring us up to June 9th, 2008, and Casey and Kaylee stayed at Casey's friend's house. It's not really clear the exact friendship arrangement that was going on. And also the next day, she did change her relationship status to be in a relationship with the other guy, Tony. That's why it's a little confusing there. And she did tell her friend Amy that they were supposed to go to Jacksonville, and she said she couldn't because her dad had a mini stroke.
Did he?
No, he didn't. That was a lie.
Okay.
Yeah. And on June 15th, Kaylee and Casey visit her grandparents and great-grandparents. It was Father's Day with Cindy and George. And this would be the last time they would see Kaylee. I know. Or that anyone report seeing Kaylee. Kaylee and Cindy then returned home to the Anthony's house. They had a swim day in the pool this day. And at this time, Casey was not there, but would spend the day with her boyfriend, Tony. So again, after they had the little trip for Father's Day to visit everybody, Kaylee went back with the grandparents. Casey disappeared. And on June 16th, Kaylee would go missing. There was apparently a heated argument, and Casey left her parents' house with Kaylee. This was around 12 o'clock. Her phone records would show, however, that she remained in that area till around 4 p.m. that day. By 7 p.m., Casey is seen on a security camera at Blockbuster Video Store with her boyfriend, and no Kaylee.
Do we know what the argument was about?
I know I couldn't find what the heated argument was about, but she argued a lot with her parents. It wasn't a very warm kind of relationship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The next day, Casey stayed at Tony's apartment, and later that day she returned to her parents, and she backed the car into the garage where she told her mother Kaylee was with the babysitter, Zanny the nanny.
Zanny.
Later that day, she borrowed a shovel from the neighbor. The next day, she returned to her parents, and again, she backed that car into the garage and again borrowed a shovel from the neighbor for about an hour.
She borrowed the shovel more than one time?
Yes, she borrowed the shovel twice.
What? That's also weird.
Very odd.
She borrowed it, Like, does she not think that looks weird?
I would
Like,
think so.
don't like the neighbor could be like, yeah, she borrowed my shovel.
Yeah, which obviously he did because we have that that bit of information here.
Yeah.
Yeah, not very smart. After this event, she told her mother that she would be in a conference in Tampa, Florida, and told her she would be going on a work trip to Busch Gardens, and Kaylee and the nanny would be joining her on this trip as well.
Okay.
During this 6-day trip to Tampa, Cindy claimed she received no contact from Casey, and she had made so many attempts and left multiple voice messages just trying to get a hold of her. During this time, she was not on a trip, but she was staying with her boyfriend. And this went on for about a month. And whenever she was asked about Kaylee's whereabouts, she always had some kind of excuse. Casey finally did return the calls, and her excuse for the lack of communication was that Zanny the nanny had been in a serious car accident and was in the hospital, and that prevented her and Kaylee from coming home.
Why?
I don't know.
Like,
That was the lie she decided to give.
all right.
Now, on June 19th, the next day, George reported the theft of multiple gas cans from his shed to the police department. And when Cindy mentioned this to Casey on the phone, she admitted she had returned to Orlando that afternoon to get insurance information from Zanny's family. She admitted to returning home and grabbing some of her belongings and admitted that she stole the gas cans. But meanwhile, she was literally at Tony's apartment. And while she was here at Tony's apartment this time, she was looking for her own apartment as well. Cindy at this time is now continuously pressing, where is Kaylee? Because, they took care of her all the time. And now all of a sudden, it's completely different than if you have a mom that's always has her kid with her. And maybe you don't hear from your grandkid for a week or so because life gets busy. But this is definitely not the case of the norm for this family. At this point, Casey would claim that she was still at the conference in Tampa and that she had went back after stopping by their home that day. That night, Casey would enter a hot body contest at Fusion nightclub. Yes.
What?
Yes. All of this when, if you actually think about it, Kaylee is missing during this time period. And continued this party lifestyle, posting lots of pictures to MySpace. She also got a tattoo that said Bella Vita, which means beautiful life. All of this is not too far of a stretch. Most people do this in their 20s. They party. They get tattoos. However, she's a mom. Where is her daughter? It's not making sense.
At this point, how long would Kaylee have been missing?
At this point, we're looking into June 21st. She was last seen, what was it, the 15th?
Okay. That gives such, psychopathic behavior to murder her daughter and then join the hot body contest at a bar and get a new tattoo and be like, look at me on MySpace. Weird.
I can't with her. That following weekend of the 21st and 22nd of June, she did continue to claim still being in Tampa. And she was even telling friends that Kaylee was on the beach. The following week, Casey would run out of gas. Again, break into her parents' home and steal more cans. Cindy continues to...
What? She can't go to the gas station?
No. So at this point, Cindy is still on her ass about where is Kaylee. And again, she is still just met with all these excuses. And then Casey does come home and she returns the cans, but she gets very aggressive and curses her father out about this because he did report those missing to the police. The next day, June 25th, Casey would tell her friend Amy that her car smelled like something had died in it. Yeah.
Wait, Amy said that?
No, Casey told her friend Amy that her car smelled like something had died in it.
Was this maybe... Wait, oh, okay, just go on, because I have questions now.
Okay. The following day, Casey abandons her white Pontiac Sunfire, which was actually her parents' car that they gave her, of course, because she can't do shit for herself, in a parking lot of a check cashing place. It seemed it had run out of gas. So she went in, cashed her check, but instead of fixing the problem with the car, she decided she didn't want to spend her money on that. So she just leaves it, and she gets a ride with her boyfriend, Tony, and that later that night, she's off to another nightclub.
She just left her car in the parking lot?
Yep. And a few days later, on June 30th, after the check cashing place noticed this random car just sitting there.
It took several days?
Yeah. Her car was finally towed to a wrecker.
With my luck, it would have taken several minutes, and they would have.
They'd have been like, get it out of here. Get it. Also, during this time, Cindy had gone on her own vacation, like an actual vacation. But she's still insisting to speak to Kaylee, asking where she is. And the excuses just keep coming. At one point, she told her that she was with a woman named Jennifer Rosa while she was staying at her ex-fiance's apartment. And at this point, she's getting frustrated. And she drives to Universal Studios to find Casey and Kaylee. But Casey would then inform her mother that they aren't in town, but now they are in Jacksonville. At this point, Cindy, and this is really sad, she did create a MySpace post about the situation titled, "My Kaylee is Missing." It was a lot of just emotional, distraught about how much she loves and misses Kaylee and how she's worried about the circumstance. And on July 4th, Casey is out again at the lake partying with her friends, and then she did not come home. They kind of figured she'd return after July 4th. Cindy was told that she had car troubles and was stranded out in Jacksonville and informed her mother that she would remain in Jacksonville until the 14th. But then she changed her story again, claiming that she'd be back on the 12th. And again, if you can guess what she's doing at this time, clubbing and partying with friends.
Yep.
Yep. On July 15th, we're already over to July 15th. Cindy reports that Kaylee is missing. Now, after learning that the family car used by Casey had been impounded, not in Jacksonville, but in Orlando, George retrieves the car and is overwhelmed by the smell of death. And him and both the impound guy got a huge whiff of this. And the worker says, "That smells like a dead body." When the car gets back to the Anthony home.
Can you imagine working for a tow company or something where you're at the impound lot or whatever, and you're like, "It smells like a dead body in your car."
Yeah.
Oh my God.
When they get the car back to the Anthony home, he has Cindy come out and also investigate the smell. And they're both like, "This smells like death." They did try to air the car out. And there was a bag of trash in the trunk that they removed. And I think a pizza box with like rotting pizza with maggots in it or something.
Oh my God.
But despite all their efforts, they tried Febrezing. They left it outside with the windows down. The smell was not leaving. At this point, Cindy tracks her daughter down. And later that day, at Tony's apartment, she walks in. And the place is filled with drug paraphernalia. Just laying around. They're high. It's first thing in the morning. And at this point, she is demanding, where is Kaylee? Casey gets super defensive about the whole situation. She's annoyed that her mom's busting in on her boyfriend's apartment. Just the whole thing. Not like, where's your daughter? And like, why are you here kind of situation. Cindy tells Casey she's going home and to grab her stuff. So Casey agrees, reluctantly, of course. And Cindy is telling her at this point when they get in the car, you need to take me to where Kaylee is now. Like, it doesn't matter. I'll get her. I'll take her home. I'll take care of her. But Casey just begins driving around kind of aimlessly, refusing to tell her where they're going. At this point, frustrated, Cindy calls the police. While they're driving and over a string of 911 calls. So she reports Kaylee has been missing for months. Now, Cindy called 911 3 different times, reporting that she has someone here that needs to be arrested and that she has a possible missing child and that Casey needs to be arrested for stealing the car and her money. Back at the house, Cindy overhears Casey telling her brother she met Zanny the nanny at the park and she said she will not be giving Kaylee back. After hearing her say this statement, she calls 911 again.
Wait, so Casey's saying that Zanny the nanny kidnapped Kaylee?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Cindy demands to speak to an officer and states she's found her daughter, but no Kaylee, and the car smells like a dead body. She tries to get Casey on the phone. Casey was calm, but seemed annoyed and didn't want to talk to the police. Finally, Casey's like, okay, and gives in, says she knows where her daughter is, but the phone number she has is no longer in service. Casey then claims that Kaylee was kidnapped, that she was dropped off with her nanny, Zanny, and that she had been missing for 31 days, but insisted that she had spoken to Kaylee on the phone that very day and that she wasn't worried. She claimed...
That wouldn't really be missing then.
Correct. And she claimed to the 911 operator that she's waited so long to report that her daughter's missing was because she was trying to find her own resources and trying to find her on her own.
That makes sense. But
No.
she just never attempted to find her on her own?
No, she was out partying. She claimed that they were communicating to Zanny through MySpace and getting instructions on how to get Kaylee back, and that Zanny said she'd get Kaylee back on her birthday. At this point, it's not even Casey. Her daughter's, some nanny ran off, if allegedly, some nanny ran off with her daughter for 31 days now, and she's like, oh, yeah, that. No mother in their right mind does that.
I'm sure her parents are just fuming.
Fuming. And they already know what a liar she is. You know, in the back of their heads, they're like, dead body smell in the car. Kaylee's been missing for 31 days now, and we've got this ridiculous story about a nanny that took her.
Yeah.
It just makes me sick to my stomach to think about it. Now, this put Casey in the position, of course, where she is now forced to speak to the authorities about the situation. Cindy states to the police that she, of course, hasn't seen her daughter and granddaughter in 31 days and demands Casey's arrest and notes the vehicle odor, saying, it smells like there's been a dead body in this damn car, is what she said exactly to police.
911, what's your emergency? I called a little bit ago, the deputy sheriff. I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. We're talking about a 3-year-old little girl. My daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her. Your daughter admitted that the baby is where? But the babysitter took her months ago. My daughter's been looking for her. I told you my daughter was missing for a month. I just found her today, but I can't find my granddaughter. She just admitted to me that she's been trying to find her herself. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car. Okay, what is the 3-year-old's name? Kaylee. Caylee. Anthony. Kaylee Anthony? Yes. How long has she been missing for? I have not seen her since the 7th of June. Is your daughter there? Yes. Can I speak with her? She's downstairs to talk. They want to talk to you. Answer the question. Hello? Hello? Yes. Can you tell me what's going on a little bit? I'm sorry? Can you tell me a little bit what's going on? My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days. And you know who has her? I know who has her. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today, now from a number that is no longer in service. I did get to speak to my daughter for about a minute. Who has her? Do you have a name? Her name is Zenaida Fernandez.
Okay, so that is the 911 call. And as you can tell, the grandmother she's losing her mind over this. She's really distraught, and Casey could care less.
Right, yeah.
It's really sad. Now the police are involved, and they do get cadaver dogs, and they do find decomposition in Casey's car and in the backyard of her parents' home. That's mentioned, but I don't really find any reasoning to why that would have been. I don't think we really know why it would have been in the backyard. On July 16th, 2008, Casey is arrested. And Casey leads investigators on some wild goose chases here. First, to the uninhabited apartment of a nanny named Zendaya Fernandez Gonzalez, who allegedly...
Was she a real person?
Yes, she is a real person. And Casey actually found this woman's information. She went to visit a apartment complex, and this lady happened to go visit the same apartment complex the same day, filled out a form. This is where Casey got the woman's identity from. And she got the woman's car information, all of her personal information. Yeah, she got it from a form that the woman filled out.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And this poor woman is like potentially getting involved as accessory in some way. And she's like, who? What?
Yes. Of course she gets cleared, and she does come back, and I think she sues Casey. She wins. But yes, she really decided to just bring in some random woman who was looking at an apartment the same day. This is the information that Casey gives the police, this information that she had gotten from that car. When the police get to the alleged apartment that she had been dropping Kaylee off at this whole time, I remember Zanny the nanny has been a part of this world now for quite a while. And police are knocking on the door, doing their thing, and nobody's answering. They're starting to peep into the windows. Can't really see anything. So they go down to the landlord and they're like, this apartment, who lives here? Can you give us any records? Well, turns out nobody had lived in that apartment since March. And then they ask, can we pull the surveillance videos from the complex so we can see if anybody's going in and out? Kaylee being dropped off. There's no woman and there's no Kaylee on any of those videos. So now, of course, they're going to start looking into Casey. And so they start by looking into where she says she works, which is at Universal Studios. Well, the police, they find that she doesn't actually work there. But they don't uncover this information to her. They don't let Casey know that they know she's lying. But what they do is take her down.
Smart.
Yeah, but what they do is take her down to Universal Studios, where she's pretending to work. They told her to take them to her boss, and now she's walking around saying hi to random people, walking past security. And it wasn't until they got lost within the many hallways and offices that she finally stops, turns around, and tells the cops, I don't work here.
What?
Yeah. Again,
Why?
a pathological liar will lie until it gets to a point where they just can't lie anymore. So she is arrested on July 16th and charged with child neglect, lying to investigators, and interfering with a criminal investigation. So now we're going to hop over to July 22nd, 2008, and Casey is declared a person of interest at a bond hearing. The hearing introduces the evidence that a cadaver dog had zeroed in on the odor of human decomposition in the car's trunk in the Anthony's backyard. During the investigation of the car, they also find a small stain in the trunk that looks like it could be the shape of a small body. The carpet of the car was tested and it was confirmed to be decomposition as well as a very strong chloroform. So they found chloroform as well. And they found a hair in the trunk of the car. Casey is being held on relatively minor charges. The judge is disturbed enough by the evidence of the young mother's seemingly indifferent behavior. So he sets the bail at $500,000. A California bounty hunter does pay this bail of $500,000 for her to get out. He said
Why?
he says he does this in hope that Casey will lead them to Kaylee. She is released and returns home with a electronic monitoring device. And at this point, the media, it is a circus. The whole neighborhood, the street, their yard, driveway is just filled with media. The parents had a lot of fights with the media. The neighbors are getting annoyed by this. It's the public was just furious that she had been released. On August 30th, 2008, bond was reinstated. Now, the reversal comes a day after Casey's arrested for allegedly stealing and cashing checks from a friend, about $600 worth.
600.
So during this time, she's wearing an ankle monitor. She's being accused of her murdering her daughter. And she's like, I'm just going to write these fraud checks.
Yeah, that'll look good for her.
Mhm.
Elegant.
Very well. And on September 5th, although, she does return to jail. And in September of 2008, the police searched the computer. And it shows some pretty shocking things. Showing that she had looked up the words chloroform, neck breaking, and household weapons.
What?
Yeah.
And she's found innocent?
Yeah. October 14th, 2008, Casey is charged with first-degree murder. They also charged her with aggravated child abuse, aggravated manslaughter, and 4 counts of proving false information to law enforcement. And her father also testified before the jury in response to Casey's lawyer, Jose, saying his client's actions will become clearer at this trial. This is where we're going to get into some craziness here. So on October 24th, 2008, of course, those forensic reports are actually released. And during the investigation, they show everything about the stain, the carpet, testing for decomposition, the hair strand found in the car. Now, they did test that hair strand, and it was microscopically similar to those found in Kaylee's brush. And it could have only been DNA brought back to either Cindy, Casey, or Kaylee, but that it showed characteristics of aberrant decomposition. So a decomposition band had appeared on the hair, and this happens, of course, when the body decomposes. Additionally, air samples from the trunk also found containing the chemical compounds consistent with the decomposition. So there's no doubt that there was a dead body in the trunk of Casey Anthony's car. All the evidence is there.
Okay. So at this point, what is she saying happened?
We're going to get
Kaylee?
there. We're going to cover it.
It's like, oh, she's dead, but she's like, I didn't do it.
Yeah,
But
we'll
it's like-
get into that.
Because I know where, I know one way it goes. I know who she blames, but I'm not sure if it occurs yet
Yeah.
in court.
Now, also keep in mind, it's going to here in a second. Now, also keep in mind that we haven't found Kaylee yet, so we don't have a body. Now, on December 11th, 2008, the skeletal remains of a young girl are discovered. But before this discovery was made, a couple of weeks after the police had found evidence of the decomposition, so it's December 11th, we're looking at weeks prior when they found that decomposition, and a man whose name was Roy Crunk, who was reading meters in the area, was walking into the nearby woods by the Anthony's house to relieve himself. He had to go to the bathroom. While he was out here, he did spot something strange, a white object that was a bit further away. He starts to walk over there to kind of take a look at this because he thinks it might be a skull that he's found. But on his way over there, he does see a dead rattlesnake. He's got 2 other employees that are out there with him, and they all get spooked and run out. However, the next day, he does call 911 and is met with a deputy. The officer did not investigate, but instead got angry at Roy for saying he had just wasted the officer's time. For the next few days following, Roy called the police saying he had found a gray bag out there in the woods. But the deputy that responded refused to even go look into the woods and see what Roy had found.
What?
Yeah, so Roy then would call a third time and is met by another deputy who did look into the area briefly but didn't find anything and just proceeded to tell Roy that it was just trash. This was
Okay.
This was 4 months previous that Roy had tried to inform the police that he felt like something strange was in those woods.
Oh, okay. Shame on the police,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
But shouldn't he maybe have checked if he was like, well, they're not going to do it? Wouldn't you?
Well, on December 11th, Roy would call 911 one more time after finding a small human skull in the same spot that he'd been trying to tell them to search. So I guess it just stayed on his mind, and he eventually was like, I'm going to go out there and look myself.
Okay.
Yeah, but 4 months later.
Yeah, 4 months earlier, he probably should have checked himself. But
Yeah. Now, the bones were found in a bag in a wooded area less than a half mile from Anthony's home. The skull was found with duct tape on the jaw area. There were also trash bags, a laundry bag, and a child's blanket, which was Winnie the Pooh themed. This means Casey would have had to driven by this area every time she went to and from that home. All those nights she was leaving her house to go party. She was going to pick up clothes. She was stealing the gas cans. She drove right by where her decomposing daughter laid.
that makes it way more unsettling. Also, why did she think, did she assume that no one would ever step in those woods again and in the neighborhood and just
I don't know. I guess it would kind of depend what kind of patch this is. I mean,
so
there's a
odd.
couple of those around my neighborhood, and I wouldn't go in there. It's not a place that you ever see people really trooping in and out of. But yeah. Now, at this point, a warrant was given on the Anthony's house, and during that search, they did find that Kaylee's bedding in her room was indeed Winnie the Pooh themed. They also had found that the laundry bag matched the laundry bag in the Anthony's home, and that those bags were only sold in pairs. And the other pair was missing from the home. Lots of evidence. On December 19th, DNA testing confirmed that this body was indeed Caylee Anthony. But because the body had been left out to decompose for so long, they could not determine a cause of death. They did find, of course, that there was duct tape that was found on the child's mouth, like I said before, kind of hanging off the mandible. And then we're going to jump forward real quick just to kind of add this information into just September 2009. Now, the duct tape that was found was not able to be used in the case as it had been contaminated by the FBI.
What?
Yeah, the contamination was discovered after the FBI lab workers noticed another female DNA on it that did not match Caylee, Casey, or Cindy. Samples at that time were taken from the FBI workers who handled the duct tape, and it did match one of the forensic document examiners. So now this evidence was pulled.
You work in the FBI and you get your DNA on the stuff?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly
Oh my God.
what happened. Yeah.
I hope
Shit show.
I hope she got fired.
I don't know about that one, but I do know an investigation was launched to the deputy's failure to investigate, and that deputy was fired over his poor responses to the Caylee tip. Yeah. Now, like I said, December 20th, those remains are confirmed to be Caylee's. The Orange County Chief Medical Examiner reports that the bone showed no evidence of trauma and that Caylee's death is being ruled as a homicide of undetermined means. Although the skull is found with duct tape around the nose, mouth, and jaw, the advanced state of decomposition ultimately prevented investigators from pinpointing an exact cause and date of death. If they would have investigated those 4 months prior, this could be a completely different case. We could have had a cause of death.
Yeah.
We could have had more DNA evidence, and Casey could possibly be where she belongs, which is in prison.
Yeah.
Poor George. He's not taking any of this very well. And on January 23rd, 2009, he is taken into custody after trying to commit suicide. So he's having issues with Cindy. Cindy, during this, is supporting Casey. And
Wait.
and we'll get into some of these details, what she does. There's a conflict of interest here. George is upset about this. The mother's supporting Casey in her innocence, and the media circus in front of their house was nonstop. George decides to go stay in a hotel. George is reported to be, when they find him, possibly under the influence of medication and alcohol. And he is located in Daytona Beach, Florida, along with a 5-page suicide note that stated, "I'm joining you soon, Caylee." On April 13th, 2009, prosecution announced their intent to pursue the death penalty. Along earlier court papers indicated that the death penalty would be in play. The notice indicates that sufficient aggravation circumstances justified this imposition. So we're going over to May 24th, 2011. And like I said, we're going to kind of speed through the trial here. I will cover certain things in a little bit more detail, but I'm not going to get into every single detail about what went down. I think we all know the evidence that was found. I think it's clear who committed this crime. But we'll just kind of breeze through this trial. So the trial begins with the prosecution opening Casey's a party girl with no use for a young daughter, and evidence by the month spent shopping, drinking during Caylee's absence. And all at the same time, remember, she's telling people that Caylee's alive, Caylee's here, oh, Caylee's at the beach, Caylee can't talk right now, Caylee's with Zanny the nanny, Zanny the nanny's in the hospital. Absurd at the amount of lies that are in this. These stunning open statements, which comes from the defense, assert that Caylee drowned in the family swimming pool and that George had sought to cover up the accidental death. So what Casey claimed is that she had fallen asleep, taken a nap. She is woken up by her father. Where's Caylee? Where is Caylee? Go out to the pool. He scoops Caylee out of the pool. She appears to be lifeless and tells Casey, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of this." There's also another story that Casey says, so she changes her story on this.
Oh, that always looks good.
So Casey also has another story about this. So I've heard 2 different stories when it comes to George and the way he handled Kaylee. The other one was that her father told her that Kaylee was alive and well, and that that's why she didn't worry about the whereabouts of her daughter, but said that they needed to keep it a secret. And this is where we get into the alleged George had molested Casey, and this ignited her habit of lying to cover up that pain. And she stated that she learned from a very young age how to lie, and how to lie well, because she was keeping this secret that her father was doing this to her, and that she thought, of course, that her father was also doing this to Kaylee, and that that's why he tried to cover up her death so that he wouldn't get blamed for the molestation, which none of that makes sense.
Yeah, because her drowning in a pool isn't correlated.
Yeah. And she also stated that he paid that utility worker that found Kaylee's body to plant that in the woods. So now she's bringing in this poor worker.
Roy.
Poor Roy. Now she's trying to pull Roy into this mix. Again, outrageous. Her poor dad, George, has to take the stand, and his daughter is sitting here blaming him for pretty much one of the worst crimes other than murder. You know, that's a huge crime to be blamed of. And of course, he denies that he ever molested his daughter or knew anything about this Kaylee drowning. I mean, the pain, she's trying to pin this on her father now. On May 27, 2011, a witness offers a theory about the smell in Casey's car. Simon Birch, the manager of the towing company that impound Casey's car on June 2008, testifies that he's encountered multiple vehicles with dead bodies during his 3 decades in business.
What?
Yeah. So when you said that earlier, I was like, I didn't want to say it. I was like, I'll wait. Multiple vehicles with dead bodies. And that the smell from Casey's car was consistent with those past experiences. The same day, the fiance of Casey's brother also takes the stand and describes the very special bond she observed between Kaylee and her mother. The forensic expert takes the stand on June 6, 2011, and explains a shockingly high amount of chloroform. Now, this is also a chemical released by decomposition as well that can be used to knock someone out unconsciously. This was detected in the car trunk, and this led to the conclusion that a dead body was indeed present. However, his testimony is contradicting the following day by an FBI scientist who compared the chloroform levels in the trunk to the amount found in the household cleaner. So now they're trying to say it wasn't a body, it was just chloroform.
As in the chemical.
Yeah, as in the chemical. Because that can be released, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now they're trying to say, it's just a mistake, guys. She just had chloroform in her trunk. Like, I mean, you know, when you're spilling your chloroform in your trunk, you know, as one does.
Yeah, it's like spilling your morning coffee.
As one does. June 8th, 2011, the jury gets the search engine information from the computers. Now, a software designer tells the court that someone had searched for chloroform a whopping 84 times, including the terms how to make chloroform, and also looked up such terms like we said, head injuries, ruptured spleen, chest trauma, internal bleeding, on the Anthony's home computer in March of 2008. Now, during this time would be the regular work hours of George and Cindy.
Oh, so they're not at the house.
They're not at the house. Later, they tried to come back and say this was an error in the detecting software and determined that the user visited a site related to chloroform only once. So now they're redacting the 84 times. But Cindy testified that it was her, and she was searching for chlorophyll because the dog had eaten some bamboo, and she wanted to make sure it was safe. And that that chloroform came up, and she accidentally clicked it.
How many times again?
Well, first it was 84, and then they brought it back down to that it was only found once.
How do you make a mistake between 1 and 84?
They determined that it was the software.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if your dog eats a plant, you're not going to just Google chloroform. You're going to Google can my dog eat bamboo? And
Exactly.
if the chloroform is the concern,
It was
not
chlorophyll. Yeah.
chlorophyll.
Yeah.
If chlorophyll is the concern, then you Google, can my dog eat chlorophyll? Is it toxic to dogs? Which it's not. They eat grass.
Yeah. Make it make sense.
And so now Cindy is all up on her side.
Yeah. And
Does it stay that way?
yeah. So
No.
at this point, she would have been at work, not home. And it was proven that Casey was the only one home. So they cover all the forensic evidence from June 15th to June 23rd, 2011. And what we've talked about, the human hair, the trunk. Now, they said there was lack of efficient DNA for individual identification. But like I said, microscopic analysis did show that that's probably Kaylee's hair. Let's think, if it could only belong to Cindy, Casey, or Kaylee, and it shows decomposition, who's the only one that's dead? But yet they weren't allowed to use it because it didn't have enough DNA evidence. A lack of
that didn't register in my head. Yeah, you're right. Like,
yeah.
only one of them would be decomposing.
Yeah. Now, this evidence was taken out. And also, look, we have the fact that Casey couldn't even identify Zanny the nanny from a lineup. So while Casey was in jail, her mom visited her, asked her, what does Zanny look like? And the police asked me because I have no idea. Casey got very upset and shut down at that point. Because earlier that day, officers had shown Casey a photo of Zendaya Gonzalez, and Casey was not able to recognize which one was her at all.
Okay. But Cindy wanted to know what she looked like so she could bring her down?
Yeah, so she
Be
could
like,
also...
that's her.
Yeah. On June 23rd, 2011, Cindy refutes previous testimonies. So, in a crucial day for the defense, Cindy claims that she was the one who had researched chloroform on the computer. She also testifies that the stains found in the trunk, allegedly caused by Kaylee's decomposing body, was there when the family purchased the car 8 years earlier. We're now finally to the two sides present their closing arguments. This is July 3rd. 2011. Now, continuing with the narrative that Casey was overly burdened by Kaylee, leading prosecutor Jeff Ashton emphasized to the jury how the young mother was motivated enough to go to the extremes to achieve her freedom. Something needed to be sacrificed. That something was either the life she wanted or the life thrust upon her. She chose to sacrifice her child. While forbidden from revisiting the unsupported molestation claims, her lawyer delivers an effective closing argument by pointing out the lack of evidence that could definitively place Casey's body in the trunk or tie Casey to her daughter's death at all. And then we have the news that makes absolutely no sense, and I really it baffles me that on July 5th, 2011, Casey is found not guilty of murder. After almost 6 weeks of testimony and 400 pieces of evidence presented in court, 400, the jury of 7 women and 5 men take less than 11 hours to reach this verdict of not guilty.
Does the jury, do they not, why? Like, what was their reason?
It makes absolutely no sense.
Well, and did Cindy ever back Casey's claims of being molested?
No, I think George was the only one that testified in that those claims were inaccurate.
Okay. So that didn't really hold up. They weren't
allowed to even use that in closing arguments.
Okay.
That's how good of a
So
liar this woman is.
How did they come to find...
No idea. It's baffling.
It is baffling. I'm sure Darlie is like, really?
For real. She got done out with a bloody sock that was found down the street. And here we have 400 pieces of evidence that were presented in court. So on July 7th, 2011, Casey is sentenced to time already served. So Casey receives a 4-year sentence and a $4,000 fine for the 4 counts of lying to the police. But prison time is canceled out by the near 3 years already spent behind bars and credits for good behavior. So she doesn't even have to do anything for that lying to the police. And on July 17th, 2011, Casey is released from jail. Casey exits the Orange County Jail shortly after midnight, passing the approximately 100 protesters who showed up to demand justice for Kaylee. It is my hope that Casey Anthony can receive the counseling and treatment she needs to move on with the rest of her life, her lawyer says in a statement. And that's it. That is the case of Casey Anthony.
So what is she posting on TikTok?
Oh, if you want to hear it, we can, let's play that. Why not?
Yeah, I'm curious because I'm not super familiar.
See if we can find one. Here we go.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Casey Anthony. My daughter is Kaylee Anthony.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
I feel that it's important that I use this platform that was thrust upon me and now look at as a blessing as opposed to the curse that it has been since 2008. The whole point of this is for me to begin to reintroduce myself. I am a legal advocate. I am a researcher. I've been in the legal field since 2011. And in this capacity, I feel that it's necessary if I'm going to continue to operate appropriately as a legal advocate that I start to advocate for myself and also advocate for my daughter. My goal is to continue to help give a voice to people, to give people tools and resources that they can utilize so they actually know where they can turn to. Still going to keep my privacy intact, so you will get very comfortable with my car, and I will explain in great detail why it's so important for people to protect their privacy. But I am proverbially standing in the light, embracing this piece. Anyway, I appreciate your time, and we'll see how this.
Yeah.
So she claims that she's been in the legal field since 2011. Girl, that's when you got out of jail.
Yeah, you're in the legal field because you were in court in 2011.
Yeah. And you don't just get involved in a legal-based job without any experience or training, and being in jail does not count.
Why doesn't she tell us why she was involved with the legal? Because you were on trial for the murder of your daughter?
And then she refers to it as a blessing.
Oh, yeah. She's
turning what used to be a curse into a blessing. What?
Yeah.
Ew.
She's disgusting. I mean, if you take a look at this case and the amount of lies that she has told, and still think you can believe one word that comes out of this human being's mouth, how anybody could believe a word that this woman says.
Yeah, I'm going to be on like a deep dive looking at her videos tonight.
I know you are. You're welcome. How about you? What are your thoughts on her emerging to this platform and now making money? Oh, really?
No, I think she did it. Of course, there's that whole thing in the back of my head, like, what if the father was in on it? But it, at the end of the day, does not really add up.
Mm-mm.
Especially with her being like, okay, like it's weird with the mom all of a sudden being like team Casey and like making up stuff to stick up for her daughter, even though she was the one who called 911. And just the fact that Casey has this history of weird lying.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's always been a liar. Ever since she learned how to speak, probably.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, she's involved.
Yeah.
Regardless of any other potential narrative, like if her father could have maybe perhaps been involved at all. I don't know. I'm not saying I think that he did it or was involved, just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I totally don't think he was. I think, again, she was trying to find anything, and if dragging her dad down, she doesn't care. She didn't care about the random woman who filled out a form. Yeah. She didn't care about Zanny. Roy.
Zanny doesn't even know what. She's like, who's Zanny?
She's like, what? Now, there is some kind of, I was hearing some people talk about this, how Zanny, the nickname, is also typically a name people call Xanax.
Yeah. When I first heard it, I was like, Zanny the nanny. I'm like, is she on Xanax?
There is some theory that maybe Casey had been given Kaylee Xanax to knock her out so that she could go live this party life, and that maybe she did give her too much and it killed her.
Oh, but why would she be saying like that would be like a breadcrumb or an Easter egg for authorities, you think?
I don't know, unless she's just that stupid.
I don't know.
Unless she
I think
thought it
that
was
might be,
funny, like because the
oh, maybe.
Xanax is the nanny, so Zanny the nanny.
Oh, oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe if she did it as like kind of a joke because she obviously
is
was
a
weirdly
terrible human
casual.
being.
Yeah, and I assume psychopathic.
Yeah,
I think
oh,
maybe
100%.
sociopath. No, I would say psycho.
Yeah.
Like so she doesn't fit sociopath. She sounds more psychopath. But
Yeah,
I hate her.
I do too. I hate everything about her, and it's so sickening. She has that like she has like a Netflix documentary or something, and
Did you watch it?
I watched it, and I was standing up yelling at the TV. I don't think I actually was able to finish it.
I will. I can't watch it because isn't the documentary kind of helping her?
Oh,
case?
it's all saying how she's innocent.
How can
I don't know. I don't understand.
how can Darlie not get anything? They're like she did it when there's literally so much evidence that can point to her not doing it.
Yeah.
In that case, the father did it 1000%. Her husband did it.
Oh, yeah.
I would join her legal team if I could.
We both would.
I can't.
We'll be like, just play the podcast.
Yeah, this one is like the opposite, and I'm like,
I can't with it. I can't. It makes me sick to my stomach. It pisses me off to no extent. Like we don't even have words to say in this debate because it just angers me. This is what it is. This is where we're at now in society, that this woman who created these heinous crimes can now receive money
and be a social media star.
Yeah. And how did she get there? From killing her daughter.
Genuinely curious to know the people who do follow her.
Mm-hmm.
Do they follow her out of the curiosity? Because like I could understand it being like, oh my god, this is crazy. This is a train wreck. This is absurd.
But still, you're supporting, and she's getting paid.
I know, that's the thing.
I refuse to even
I wouldn't
look it up on TikTok. I'll look it up on YouTube off of a crime. Like, yeah, I think that was.
Then that's what I'll do too.
Yeah, that was off of E! Network. Well, that's it. That is the case of Casey Anthony, and if you still think she's innocent, like I don't know what to say for you.
Explain yourself
Explain
in the review and comments, please.
For real.
Well, thank you for enlightening me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm caught up and versed on the Casey Anthony world.
I guess with that, we'll say
good night.
And pleasant nightmares.
Bye.
Bye.